guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to give you the top tips you got to look out for when you're going to buy a used iPhone. So let's get started. Now the first most important tip in my opinion is to make sure that the phone you're going to purchase does not have any passcode or iCloud lock on it. For example, this iPhone 5's got a password on it. So if you purchase this phone which got a password on it, you can restore, but the moment you restore and when the phone tries to activate, it will be locked down by activation lock, and once you reach activation lock, basically the phone is just a paperweight. There is no workaround for activation lock. You cannot do anything. So I highly recommend you stay away if a phone has passcode or an iCloud lock on it, wherein the seller has forgotten his iCloud login details so that he could remove the account. But if you come across any device that has iCloud lock or a passcode and the seller does not remember how to remove them, then I highly suggest you stay away. Don't get me wrong, you can still use the device. The seller can delete all of his apps and personal data and still give you the device. But the issue is he still has control over this device, as this device will still be linked with his Apple ID and account, and he could anytime remotely lock the device, and there's no way for you to get around it because he still has complete control over the iPhone. So be very careful when it comes to password and iCloud lock. Now the next one is obviously to look at the physical condition of the device. As you can see, this is an iPhone 5. It's in pristine condition. It doesn't have any scratches or damages or dings. It's in perfect condition, yeah, except the power button up there. So now when it comes to this, make sure all the buttons of the devices work. Your mute button, your power switch, your home button, make sure everything works really well. Also, while you're at it, check out the body of the device, check out the frame, whether it's straight or whether it's warped a bit, or it has a slight bend to it, especially when you guys are looking to buy a used iPhone 6 or a 6 Plus. This is my iPhone 6, okay? It's in an iPhone 8 body, but it's an iPhone 6. So yeah, especially when you guys are looking to buy an iPhone 6 or 6 Plus, they were known to bend quite easily. So look around them. If you notice any bend or a warp, then be highly cautious, because right now currently there may not be any issues, but later in the future issues could crop up, because because of that bend or that little warp, the motherboard could be under strain, and over time connections could break, the soldering could break, and you could have loose connectors, things like that, which it's not going to be pretty good, and that could lead to serious issues, because I can't tell you what issues could crop up. Anything could go wrong because of that slight bend, because there are highly sensitive electronics within the device, and the motherboard is really prone to cracking and things like that. So be extremely careful if you picking up a phone. If it's got a bend or a slight warp, then be extremely careful. Now the next thing you got to look out for is for the display, battery, and the speakers. So let's talk about the display. Now when you look at this display, try to bump the brightness all the way up, okay? And I'm not sure whether you can see it on camera, but when you look at this iPhone, the one I'm holding in my hand right now, and you look at it in person, the display doesn't get as bright as an original Apple display. The reason is because this isn't an original Apple display. It's a compatible Apple display. It's not original. Okay, it's not OEM. So things look great on the display, but the brightness isn't quite as bright as the original one. So it's going to be pretty hard. It is actually pretty hard to see this display in direct sunlight compared to an original one. The colors also don't quite pop too much. Also, you can see a bit of pixelation on the display. I'm not sure you can see it on camera, but it isn't as vibrant, and it isn't such a great joy to use when you compare it to the original display. So make sure your display is original, or it's a good quality display. Also check out the viewing angles. As you can see, even though this isn't OEM, the viewing angles are pretty good, you know. You can see that it's pretty colorful. The viewing angles are pretty good. The colors aren't getting washed out. There's no discoloration of the display. Everything looks fine. So it's a pretty good display. So look at your viewing angles. If you're looking at viewing angles wherein you know, icons are washed out, the colors don't quite pop when you view the phone, or you can't even see anything, then most likely that that display isn't OEM, or it's a pretty poor quality display. So that's with the display. Also, I forgot another one thing. Check whether the entire digitizer works, especially if you guys are picking up a phone which has a cracked glass. The display, the LCD isn't cracked, but just this glass is cracked. So, you know, even when the seller tells you that touch works, just pick up an icon, go around the entire display to find whether you've got any dead spots in the display. So that's another thing. Now coming to the battery, okay, so with the battery, the thing is, if you're picking up an older generation iPhone, for example, the iPhone 6 or the iPhone 5, they are almost 5 to 6 year old phones, and if they have not had a battery replacement in that time, most likely you would be getting a phone with a pretty degraded battery. So the battery would most likely be trash. It depends basically on how the phone was used during its life, but most likely the battery is in pretty bad condition and you would need to get that replaced. So ask the seller, you know, was the battery replaced before, or what's the battery backup, how is it, things like that. So you can get a kind of a good picture of what you can expect, because as all of us know that Apple secretly implemented the slowdown, wherein iPhones which had degraded batteries would have a slow performance, so that battery life could be increased. But so if you're going to purchase a phone which has got a degraded battery, you would suffer with degraded performance. But don't worry, it's not such a big deal, because since Apple has got that battery replacement program going on, so you can just take your device into the Apple store and get the new battery replaced. But do note that this replacement program is only for the iPhone 6 and above, not the iPhone 5s. It's a bummer, I know, but iPhone 5s is not included under the battery replacement program. So if you're going to purchase a 5s, then you would most likely need to replace it yourself, or, you know, pay full price at Apple to get it replaced. So that's with battery. Next, coming to speakers. There's not much to say about speakers, but give them a good listen. You know, if you find that the speakers are a little bit muffled, or it's a bit tinny, or worst case, you find the speakers blown, it's all distorted, then you'd know that, yeah, most likely you'd need to replace that speaker. For example, have a listen to this iPhone ringtone. Let's go back settings. It sounds really good. It doesn't have, it's not muffled, it's not distorting or anything. It sounds really good. If you find that your speaker is muffled, it could just be that there's a lot of dust that's in there. It just needs a good cleaning and things could be fine. So, or if it's a blown out speaker, if things are pretty badly distorted, then you'd most likely need to get your speaker changed. That's not expensive, it's pretty cheap, so don't have to worry about that. Next, coming to sensors. Make sure all the sensors on the device work. Make sure the auto brightness sensor works, things like that. I'm going to show you how to quickly test the proximity sensor right up there. So open up voice memos, all right? And once voice memos is open, start recording. And when you place your finger over the front-facing camera and the proximity sensor right here, the display should go off right there. And when you release, it should come back. Okay, so I can't get that right on camera right there. When you release, the display comes back. If when you place your hand on the sensor, the display doesn't go off, then your proximity sensor will not be working. So you need to get that replaced as well. So that's with the sensors. All right. Now the next thing we're going to have a look at is if you're looking at buying an iPhone 7, all right, which is rated IP67 water resistant. If you're looking to buy that used, ask the seller whether the phone was opened previously. For example, did it have any repairs performed on it? and if it did, whether it was repaired at the authorized Apple service center or was a third party involved. Because the issue is, if the phone was repaired at an authorized Apple service center, um, once the repair was done, they would reapply the adhesive, and which would preserve the iPhone's water resistance. All right, because once you open up your iPhone 7, the adhesive that gives its water resistance is broken out. So once the adhesive is broken, it's no longer IP67 certified. So ask them whether it's gone to Apple, because it's gone to Apple, then for sure after they repair, they're going to reapply the adhesive, making the phone again IP67 water resistant. Whereas the third party, I highly doubt to do that, because if you buy a used iPhone and for your bad luck, if it isn't if the adhesive isn't reapplied and it's not IP67 certified, you will surely suffer water damage, which could be pretty bad. So ask the seller whether it was opened, or if it was opened, was it opened at Apple or not. Now, the next one is a pretty important point which I look at pretty seriously when I look at buying a used device. It could be any device, not just Apple, but any electronic device. Check out whether your IMEI is clean. I can't stress this, how important this is, but it may sound pretty, it may not sound that important, but it's pretty important. Check out whether the device you buy, check whether the IMEI is clean, because you wouldn't want to buy a device which is lost, stolen, or blacklisted, or because if you're going to purchase a device like this, you wouldn't want to land in a situation where in the near future you get stuck up with law enforcement or things like that, wherein they say that this device was used for illegal purposes or things like that. So, but you never used it for that, but it was just that the previous owner was caught and this device was used in a particular crime or things like that, and you are now the owner of the device, so the responsibility falls on you. So be highly cautious when you look at that. Make sure the IMEI number is clean. Make sure the device is not lost or stolen or blacklisted on the market. There are good websites online. You got to pay them a fee, and they will run the numbers and let you know whether your IMEI is clean. There are also websites to do it for free, but I don't quite trust them, because it's business after all, and no one would just give a free service, especially when it comes to IMEI, things like that. So if you want to check out whether your device is blacklisted or not, do yourself a favor, pay that little fee and get a proper report which is authentic. So that's with IMEI. Next is while you're searching for devices online, to buy, do note that there are a few sellers out there who misrepresent devices. For example, the ad might say, this is an iPhone 5 for sale, all right? So they may say, I've got an iPhone 5s for sale. The ad would read 5s for sale, but if you look at the pictures closely, it would be an iPhone 5. You got to know the differences, because an iPhone 5 has only a single LED flash, whereas an iPhone 5s has two flashes. The SE also has two flashes, not one. So read the ad thoroughly, look at the pictures thoroughly, compare them to the original pictures, because you don't want to get scammed. I'll give you a really good example. This is originally an iPhone 6, okay? But if I show it to anyone, they would think that this is an iPhone 8 in product red, okay? Now, why is it like that? Because it's pretty easy. This iPhone 6 has the housing of an iPhone 8, so I could easily post an ad online saying, I've got a product red iPhone 8 for sale. Do you want to buy? And the unsuspecting eye could fall prey to it, could fall prey to the scam, because there's literally no way you can differentiate this from the original iPhone 8. It's absolutely a perfect copy. Yes, the lettering might be a little off right there, but otherwise it looks absolutely pristine, just like the original one. So be extremely careful for those who are misrepresenting devices out there. So do your research, compare the pictures to the original ones, and I hope you don't get scammed. So the next one we're going to talk about is pretty important also. As I mentioned in the beginning, I just want to reiterate that never buy iCloud locked devices, because it's just not worth your money or your time or your effort, because iCloud locked devices are just paperweights. You can purchase them if you get a really good deal to use them for parts. For example, you need a new display or need a new battery, you can go ahead and purchase an iCloud locked device because you're going to use it for parts. But if you think an iCloud locked device is pretty cheap and I can somehow get past, I'm sorry, you're wrong. There is no way to get past iCloud activation lock. If the phone is iCloud locked, then it's just a paperweight. So stay away from iCloud locked devices, because most probably they would be stolen or blacklisted devices. They would be lost. That's the main reason why they're iCloud locked. All right. Don't believe most of the time the seller says, I've forgotten the password and things like that. But that's not mostly true, because iCloud lock is a feature wherein people use it if the device is lost or stolen. So be aware for iCloud lock. Now, coming to the conclusion, basically the points to remember is do your research before you go to purchase the device. Go to Apple's website, look at the device, look at the original pictures. Also ask the seller for the IMEI address of the device or the serial number of the device. Go to Apple's website. I'll leave the link in the description, and enter the serial number there. And Apple will give you information regarding that serial number, about what iPhone it is, what color it is, when was it activated, or what is the storage on that iPhone, things like that. So do your research properly. And one more thing to keep in mind is I know that used iPhones may not come in perfect working condition. Some of them might have cracked displays, or the charging port might not work, or the buttons might not work, things like that. But do yourself a favor and always remember this: the newer the device, the more costlier its repairs would be. For example, if you're going to purchase an iPhone 6 used, and if it's got a cracked display, and if you're going to purchase an iPhone 10 used and it's got a cracked display, trust me, the iPhone 10 is going to cost you a serious amount of money to get that display replaced, compared to the iPhone 6 to get the display replaced. Even though the iPhone 10 might have a really good deal, it's pretty cheap and things like that, but you might have to end up spending a lot of money to just get that display replaced, and who knows. And if any other issues pop up, it's going to be a pretty costly device for you. Whereas the iPhone 6, you get its replacement parts, and things are available, and they're not that expensive as compared to the newer iPhones. So do remember, if you're buying a newer device, a newer generation of iPhone, you run the risk of costly repairs for that particular product. So that's it, guys. I hope you like the video. I hope you make the right choice. Be safe out there, and do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Happy shopping.